Everyone needs to build a career that they love. You spend 40 plus hours a week at work. If your job sucks and you're unhappy, your life sucks because you can't make up 40 plus hours a week and expect to be happy. So I'm a big believer, no matter what you're doing, find a way to align with something that you love.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we are joined by Kimberly Brown. She is the founder of Brown Leadership. You've been a coach for over 14 years, if I did my math right, since 2011. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like it's in good company with all the career coaching folks.
Yeah. Oh my God. You had some interesting takes that I definitely want to dive into, like pre-podcast, but let's start with this. Let's start with your origin story. Let's start with the beginning, the lore. How did you get into coaching? And more importantly, what made you want to turn it into a business?
Gosh, so my origin story, where did I first start coaching? So I think like most people, I stumbled in the early phases of my career. I kind of fell into different roles, was introduced to different things. I'm from small town Connecticut. And in my book, I think one of the stories I always tell is like my only goal in graduating college was not to move back to small town Connecticut. That was it. I stumbled in different careers, wanting to make money. I just need to make enough to live and not move back with my parents. That was it. And one of the jobs I was in, I was the assistant director of recruitment. So it was in admissions at a small college in the Bronx. And I really enjoyed it. It was a hustle and a grind being in schools at 7 in the morning and 8, 9 o'clock at night for career fairs. But one of the things I noticed was that I didn't have like a long relationship with a student. I would get them to apply. I would talk to them. I would meet their families. And I was so bought into their journey. But if people think about it, most people cannot remember their admissions counselor. You have no idea who that human was after. Once you get into school, you build longer relationships with everyone else. So while I really love that early conversation that I had with the student, with their family, I was like, I want to talk to them more. I want to be able to see them grow. So then I started looking into various offices in higher ed where I felt like could potentially work. And career coaching is one of the things that came up. And I was like, oh, I get to be really selfish now. I get to work with you in your early days. I get to work with you as a grad student, and I get to coach you as an alum. And the first time I saw a student get a job as a direct result of working with me, I was hooked. I used to say early on that I help people make more money than me because working in higher ed, you don't really make a lot of money. And most of my students had signing offers that were a lot more than I got paid per year. But I absolutely positively loved it. Very soon, I think that was 2011. I started coaching, and that was like my full-time job at that point. It was serving as a career coach. And I was industry agnostic from early on. While we had some majors, when someone was off work or on vacation, you had to jump into tech or jump into ed or work with alums. So my background really started there. And slowly but surely, I started speaking at conferences, getting very involved in the career development community in higher education. And I started getting excited to do things outside of my 9 to 5. And I started to have my own thoughts, my own ideologies, my own way I wanted to approach. And as you know, when you work at any place that does career coaching in a very traditional old school sense, they want you to have a similar approach. So if Kimberly's out today, you should be able to go see Lisa and have a similar experience. Then you should be able to leave and go see Stacy, and it should be fairly similar. But when you're outside of an institution, you can have a little bit more flow and really start to ideate and approach things differently. So while I was building my career in higher ed, I left that university, worked at 2 others after that, still in career services. I started to build my own practice. And it has grown and evolved since then. And it's been one of the most unexpected careers. You couldn't have told me back in 2011 that I would do this work full time for myself. I would have been like, you are crazy. Like that's just nuts. Like who does that? Like there's actually a job like that. I wouldn't have believed you, but I love it.
What was the unexpected part for you?
So early on, before I started doing things on my own, A fun fact about me is that I actually was blogging about like health and fitness. That was my first foray into entrepreneurship. It was really back in the day where people used to comment on blogs all the time and build communities. So I was super inspired by people like Lauren Bostic of the Skinny Confidential. She's one of the OG bloggers. Yes, if you're familiar with like Lauren Bostic, she's literally one of the pioneers of blogging and has built an empire now. I love looking at, I think Pat Flynn was out back then. He used to have long form blogs. I was super inspired and was always on some type of health journey. So I started blogging back then about health and wellness, but then I started connecting it to the world of work and about keeping your mental health, your wellness practices, and enjoying your job and your career. Because if those two things are okay, generally like you feel pretty good. And that's where it slowly started to merge and turn. So I think for me, I would have thought I'd be a full-time blogger like a Lauren Bostic before I ever thought that I would have pivoted completely to be on the career side.
And I'm kind of curious now, like, let's fast forward to today. Tell me about who you kind of help today, like who's your ICP and all that.
So again, very different. I think starting as the career coach, especially in higher ed, it was a lot of resumes, a lot of job search, like all of that, like getting your first job. Now, I don't really do a lot of that, which I love. I can, but I don't like it anymore. I really don't like it anymore. I really work with what I joke and affectionately call the magic middle. So the bulk of the workplace that essentially does all the work and gets none of the glory. Like they're not the entry level folks, but they're not super senior chiefs yet who can really make the decisions, but they're doing and grinding and doing a lot of the work. And I work with them more on becoming better leaders, being better managers, gaining visibility, gaining stakeholder buy-in, more the strategic parts of building your career. Those are really my people who I work with day to day.
Yeah, if you think about it, that's like the most room for transformation and growth too. You can really see their impact.
Yes.
Now, I think you do have a hot take on this. We're talking pre-podcast, and you're saying like business coaching is different from career coaching. I would love to hear like the different how you define each one of those and the differences between the two.
Definitely. So when we were speaking, I was speaking a lot about essentially like the customer's ability to understand what it is. I feel like as a career coach, a lot of our customers have this ideal that, well, my company needs to pay for it. My company, this is professional development to make me do better at my job, so I should not be investing on my own. But as I know to be true, and a lot of my clients, a lot of companies don't pay for career coaching, especially career coaching in particular, because they're just like, oh, no, that's the coaching to help you leave your job. We need you to stay right here. So we're not going to pay for a one-on-one coach unless it is like really streamlined. Versus business coaching, there is this pay to play mindset that as business owners, we know if we want to get into the room, if we want to grow, if we want to scale, you have to invest. And I think when we are looking at programs as entrepreneurs, I think one of the biggest things I always look out for is that I want a business coach who understands the differences in my buyers. Because I think when you are a business coach selling, helping a business scale, people easily understand, oh, I need to pay. I need to pay to get this information. But for career coaching, they're like, can I get my company pay for it? Or what if I go to this website that gives like $100 resume review? Or like I can get a session, I can go on Fiverr and find someone to do this for like $57. No shade to anyone who that's what their pricing is, but I know it's not mine. And I know that sometimes it could be hard for my customers to understand what is the difference between getting this done for under $100 versus the rates that I charge, which are significantly more. But I'd argue and say that the impact I have is also significantly more. And kind of explaining that is different versus in a business sense, people will drop $15,000 on a mastermind or an annual program, a lot more than that sometimes. And it's just like, oh, this is just what I have to do.
Yeah, and they won't even care about the ROI. Well, some people do, but like some people just like drop it and they don't even.
It's not as tangibly versus career coaching is like, if I did not increase my salary by XYZ amount, then I'm going to write a review. This was a terrible experience.
That's so interesting. Now, I'm also really curious too, like fast forward to today, how does your marketing look like? How do people typically find you and what kind of marketing channels are you using right now?
So my marketing, I think, is a little bit non-traditional because of my personal brand. And I think if we take it all the way back to 2011, I think I briefly mentioned I loved speaking at conferences. I love getting involved external to my job. And I think I've kept that methodology throughout my time building my business. So I'm an author. I wrote a book in 2021. I frequently do workshops and keynote, and I was doing that unrelated to essentially like the B2B side of my business. So a lot of our business comes through referrals. It comes from me being on a stage, and I'm very clear on I know the rooms that will drive leads. So I try my best to at least speak a few times a year in rooms like that. And that's where a large majority of our leads come in. I can be very transparent and share. I have attempted to hire an external salesperson. I've probably spent the last year and a half, and I have failed time and time and time again. So that is something that I have not mastered, getting the external sales. I invested in an amazing coach. We have the best processes, but identifying the person who's able to do that in my arena has not been something that I've been successful at so far. We do a little bit on social, but a lot of it is going to events, me speaking at an event. And we've experimented with doing some old school vending. So being at HR conferences, and we had our first like real setup this past June, and it went really well. So we're trying some new channels, but mostly like in person or me speaking is what drives our leads.
Oh, I love that. And what kind of events are you typically speaking at?
So I look for events wherever there are a lot of professionals. So ideally, companies are sending quite a few of their employees to an event. So I've done things like the conferences for women. I did that in 2023 and still get leads from it. I did 2 workshops to 2,000 women each. And that still brings leads to my company. I love professional organizations. So obviously there's the SHRM, there's ATD, but I think any professional association, whether it's a national sales network, society of engineers, any of them, those are also great lead gens for me. And this past year, I spoke at Future of Work USA here in New York City. And that was also very successful for me too. And that was all HR professionals, a smaller version of maybe a SHRM or ATD.
That's really interesting. It seems like you work with a whole variety of like different professionals and all that too. Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's from my higher ed background. I think higher ed is always under resourced. You always have to jump in and learn something else and just figure it out. So my clients are super diverse. I have clients who are in advertising and finance and big tech and higher ed, nonprofits. I always say that my work is fairly industry agnostic. So that allows us to be in a bunch of different rooms and things still work out.
Yeah. I love to talk about the business for a second. One of the things I love about this podcast is I get to hear all the different business models that is working for coaches at all different stages. I know some do one-on-one coaching, some do group coaching, some do organizational trainings, like you mentioned pre-podcast. But if you're comfortable sharing, I would love to hear the types of offers that you have for your business.
Definitely. So we have coaching for individuals. So people can come to Brown Leadership and select a career coach and work with us one-on-one in either one session, a multitude of sessions, or day-long experiences. But the majority of our work really comes from the B2B side. So we do the same thing, but for organizations. So there's companies that hire us to come in a few times a year and we'll do a series of sessions for a set number of employees. Or the largest part of our work is really training and development, where we are either building out programs from scratch from organizations or running the curriculum for an existing program. And that's where most of our work is. And part of those programs, sometimes there's coaching, sometimes there's not.
Yeah. Was it kind of like a slow transition, or were you like, did you kind of know this right from the beginning? I'm kind of curious about the transition period into actually like creating these trainings.
Oh, no, it was a slow transition over time. And I think it also evolved as my career evolved. So I started, I think, at that one school working as a career coach. After that, let me see if I remember the title. I think I was the assistant director of alumni career programming and employer development. So very long title. Yes, still doing one-on-one career sessions, but I got much more into the alumni communities, more in structured programming, talking more to the employers at the universities, helping them recruit students and alumni. And I think as my career moved, so I did that for a little while, and then I went strictly employer outreach at another university. And then I went into corporate finance, and I served as the director of global diversity talent acquisition strategy at a Fortune 100 company in financial services. So I think my work, if I think about it, I really went from like B2C to B2B in my 9 to 5 role. And that helped evolve my coaching and evolve the offers that I had. I always love teaching workshops. So personally, me, like I love to submit at conferences. I have such a good time presenting at conferences. Even before I had a business where it was lead gen, I just loved it. I love speaking. So I think I started to slowly build a catalog of workshops that worked. And then at one of the institutions in higher ed that I worked at, I would also, that was a way to get into employers and a way to speak to them. If I offered any type of development, any type of training for their people, for their alumni, then I could easily get in. And if I take it even back pre 2011, that's how I got into schools in admissions sometimes. They were tired of just having you come in and do like the standard, like, hi, this is this college. You should come here because we have 100 different majors and these activities. They were tired of that. But if I came in and taught resume building, personal branding, like understanding yourself, goal setting, then I got to get into the school and meet the students and then slide in that you should apply here. So I think the training part of my work has been present for a very long time. It's just evolved and been fine tuned. And then I got introduced to a coach who really specializes in like B2B work, like teaching you how to sell in corporations versus individuals. And then that just like skyrocketed the business. And
Ooh,
I loved it.
yeah, that's really interesting. It's kind of funny to see the old school, like before the internet, because we all know like the marketing on the internet and how it applies
Yes.
like in real life and stuff too. It's like you're giving value through these workshops and resume.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
One question I do have, because if you're open to it, you don't have to give any hard numbers or anything like that, but I'd love to talk pricing strategy because a lot of coaches often struggle with this the most. And so when it comes to pricing strategies, which ones have you kind of gravitated towards? There's different types. I know like more the beginner type of people go hourly, but there's like project based, value based, retainers, subscriptions. Like which ones have you kind of gravitated to personally?
I've never been asked this question. I think my one-on-one coaching, it's on my website, so I'm like, that's open to the public to see. That I say is more project-based. It's definitely not hourly, but it's like, this is what all comes in this package. This is the value. This is the impact. This is what should happen and transpire during this time. And it's evolved over time. I think if you saw the prices I charged in the beginning, I remember that coach, especially the B2B coach. I remember during COVID, I had a lot of success because companies wanted training. And I remember I was selling these packages into organizations to do workshops, to do coaching. And I was just excited to be there. And I still had my full time job. And when I talked to this coach about what I was charging, I swear she was going to lose it. She was like, we're not talking about this anymore, but you will never charge things like that again, ever. So we're not even having a conversation. Like it is over and we're going to like triple that price. And we're not even going to discuss that this is where you came to me because that's the fact that you thought it was okay to get paid that. And these companies make so much money. Like we're not doing that. So I think over time, I've understood my value. I've understood the impact of the work that I have. And it's much more, I would say, I guess, project based,
Mm, I
like
see.
much more project based. We don't at this time for our corporations that involve like programming and other things. It's more retainers. There could be an annual retainer involved, but we still do custom proposals for all of our corporations work. So when a company hires us versus an individual, it is proposal based. They come to us, we do a discovery call, we build out a whole proposal, we present it again. And it generally takes a few iterations for us to settle on pricing, what's included. So I would say it's highly customized on that side.
Thanks for going over the vendor selection process because I'm always so curious about that, like for like more B2B and stuff like that too. You mentioned a really interesting thing. You mentioned like your coach being like, "No, we're not charging this anymore. You're going to
But
triple
yeah.
your price." I'm kind of curious, like, what other boundaries have you had to set in your business, either with clients, your time, your pricing, that were hard but also necessary?
Better contracts, right? I feel like any business owner can relate to you have clients that make you rewrite your contract like immediately, like in argument with the client. You're like, let me go back because this will not happen again. So I used to be very open. A lot of my clients had my cell phone number, and not everybody can handle having a coach's cell phone number. Oddly, I will say now, I think I have very senior level one on one who've just come to me as individuals. So I think my senior level folks have my cell phone because they've never abused it. But from more of the magic middle or more entry level, I never give the cell phone. I'll use Voxer or we need to do email support. I'm very specific on the amount of time, everything. is. So we do for a one-on-one, if someone were to come to me for one session, we have a 30-minute planning session first where we plan what we're going to talk about in the coaching session. Then we have the 60-minute coaching session. I outline exactly what like before, after, during looks like, just so the clients are clear and there's not unrealistic expectations about what happens after this. I think I'm just very, very candid. And I'm also not afraid to just let someone go. I will very much say, like, I'm not the coach for you. One on one for me is so personal. I want to get to know you, obviously help you achieve your goals, but the coaching relationship has to go both ways. And I find the best coaching relationship, someone is open, they're honest, they are vulnerable. You hear all the things when you're working with someone one on one. So I need to feel that connection too. So if I don't feel it or I see any flags that make me hesitant, I'm A-OK referring them to someone else. Early on, I used to be like, no, it's going to be okay. And every single time it bit me in the behind. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm so happy that we had this call today. I don't think I'm the best coach for you, but here's a list of referrals or other resources, and I'm A-OK. And it always comes back tenfold. Every time I let
Yeah,
someone go, I get someone else who's more aligned. And I wish I knew that earlier on. It probably would have saved me a lot more heartache.
great lesson over there. Yeah, and you just have this like, just in the short amount of time I've been speaking to you, it seems like you have your boundaries and you know like you know where like your boundaries are at. And but you're also like very warm about it too. Like I feel this like warmness from you and people can just trust you because you're so direct at the same
I
time,
try, but it
right?
doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay. I tell
Yeah.
people that I'm a very straightforward coach. I would rather tell you about the mistake that you made before you do it in the workplace when it's game time. I
Yeah.
tell all of my one-on-one folks all the time that like coaching, like you mess up with me. Don't do it when it's game time because I think a lot of professionals fundamentally they try things for the first time with no practice when it counts. It's like they're running a marathon and they did not train. And that's the first time they negotiate their salary, have a tough conversation, do all those things. And I was like, that's not okay. You need to
Yeah.
practice and rehearse, and you do that with me. And I'm going to give you the really tough feedback. That's how I grew. Me sugarcoating it or giving you this, I hate the positive, negative feedback sandwich where you don't even understand the negative feedback isn't going to help you. So if you want direct feedback, then you'll come to me. But if you want someone to sugarcoat it, I'm not really the coach for you because I want to see you win.
I love it. It reminds me of my like MMA coach and stuff like that too. Like
Yeah.
typically with MMA coaches, they're pretty harsh, you know, especially if you're getting like in the middle of a fight or something like that. Anyways, I want to switch. I want to talk about your future goals because you've been in this industry for about like 14 years. And I guess where do you want to take this coaching business in the next few years? Do you have any secret dreams, big ambitions? Are you thinking about hiring more, scaling? I would love to hear about that.
It's funny. I literally have my goals like up on this wall to my right.
Really?
Because we just had yeah, we had a team retreat in like the middle of August where we really got clear where we want to be in the next 3 years. So I feel like that's perfect because it's literally right here. I think the biggest thing is that we're working on scaling so that I am not the person doing as much delivery as I am. Right now, I think because of my personal brand, because of me loving to speak and do all those things, most clients come to Brown Leadership and they want to work with me. We do have other coaches who I have come on to deals, but making that transition is a little harder. But you'll be doing this, right? Like you'll be on site with us or we'll work with you, not this other person. So making that transition is the biggest inhibitor to allowing us to scale. So I'm working on right now, most of my coaches all have their own coaching business and they just subcontract with Brown Leadership over time. Over the next few years, my goal is to hire and train career coaches in my methodology, how we do things, that we have some in-house folks who really our clients will be just as excited to have on site as me. And I think I'm going to take it like when I became a career coach, I feel like first you shadowed and then you debriefed and then you did some parts of a session and then the other coach did the other part and then you took it over. And I feel like I want to do the same methodology with my clients and when onboarding a career coach and kind of letting them watch and slowly train them through until they're able to work autonomously and really give people the same experience that I give them.
Yeah, I love that. Now, in this current season of your business, what are some challenges or bottlenecks that you're noticing right now that maybe people around you wouldn't realize that you're going through?
So I think that I'm very hard on myself. So most people don't know any of the things that are going on behind the scenes. So even me, like the sales issues, like it has been a year with the sales and trying to get that up and running. That was definitely a bottleneck. But I think I just kind of pivoted. I'm like, I need a break. I need like a good heartbreak from going through all the trauma with the sales. I think we brought on an operations manager who was phenomenal last year in November. And systematizing, automating everything has been great. Recently hired an executive assistant who has an HR background, that has been like the missing link, and they are killing the game. So I think I'm probably the biggest bottleneck because I think having amazing, competent team and delegating appropriately so that we can scale and grow, and me not having to touch everything, that's a learning curve. It's a big learning curve. And I think as a business owner, I can sometimes look at something and I know it's not right. I can't tell you why it's not right, but I don't like it.
It's like an
Yes.
intuitive like, type of feeling. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've been doing a lot of video training with my team. Now when I give feedback, I tell them like just schedule a call with me. I don't care if we're on the call for 5 minutes or less, but let's schedule it and record me going through it and let me talk as I'm like making the corrections. And I've noticed that's made a really big difference with my team because I can't tell you why it's wrong. I can't. I don't know why it's wrong, but it's wrong. I don't like it. We're not using it. We need to change it. That doesn't help anybody, but I will talk to myself as I'm editing copy or a graphic or a deck for a client. And I found that my team has learned exponentially more by watching me talk out loud and edit and fine tune, or even sometimes when I'm not talking, I'm just clicking and change it. Like, oh, why'd you change that? I wouldn't have thought to
Mm,
do that. And that's been helping my team, helping remove some of the bottlenecks that they can give me things that are more well baked that can go right to a client.
that's a great tip, by the way. I noticed that with like a lot of top performers and stuff, even with like myself, like because I always think like, oh my god, I want things like this, and this, but then I realize it makes you look into the mirror and be like, do I have like really high expectations on other people and stuff like that too? Am I the actual problem? You know?
It
So yeah.
does. I think also with hiring, finding folks, and I hope this isn't, maybe it's a hot take, maybe it's not, but I found the folks that work best for me, they have at some point had a stressful job. They have not been entrepreneurs their whole life. They have worked in a high performance culture where excellence was expected. Now, I'm not going to talk about if it was toxic or not, because some of these places are toxic and we know that. But those folks, because of my background, I've worked in a lot of places like that. I'm still getting used to. I've been full time for 4 years, so I'm so used to not saying where I've worked before. But I've worked at really great companies. So when I was in career coaching, I was at Long Island University. It's one of the largest private schools in the nation. I went from there to Teachers College, Columbia, to Princeton, and then the job I worked at in finance was at American Express. So I've always worked at really big organizations that have lots of rules, lots of expectations. And I joke and say during my time at Amex, it's a strong deck culture. So I know how to build a deck. I can see when something is 1 milliliter off. I'm like, that box just needs to, I could just move it to the side. Why my eye sees it? It's because I had a leader who she was very used to presenting to the most senior leaders of the organization. And she always saw it and was like, oop, that's off. That's off. Move that here, tweak that. So how I think is heavily influenced by the type of institutions I've worked for. So me hiring folks who've worked in similar cultures or had a little bit stressful, high impact, had to present to senior leaders, those folks do best with me. And that's been something I didn't necessarily want to look for in the beginning. And honestly, probably couldn't afford to hire folks who had a bigger corporate background because that comes with a higher price tag because they're used to bigger budgets.
Yeah.
But I've scaled back and invested a little bit more in team that has more significant experience. And that has significantly helped.
Love that. Which brings me to the next segment. Let's play a game if you're up for it. It's not like one of those
Of
Japanese
course.
game show games, but I always like to spice things up. This is through the lens of business investments. And so I'm going to ask you 4 questions. Just say what comes to mind. What was your first business investment?
I don't remember the first one. It's like I don't remember which coach I hired first, but I believe it was to help me develop a framework. I was so used to having processes in my corporate career, I kind of knew how I talked to folks. I knew the experience I wanted them to have, but I never had like step one, step two, step three, and like a pretty name. I hired someone to help me build out what that looked like take over all the ideas in my brain to put it into a framework that I can teach people. I believe that was my first investment. And then my second investment, I think, yeah, it had to be after that, was someone who taught me how to build a sales funnel for
Ooh,
coaching.
what year
Yes.
was this?
So the first coach, I think, was somewhere in like I think that was like 2013. So it must have been like 2014, 2015. I was building sales funnels. And to anyone who uses Facebook ads now, so which is why I can't run them anymore. Cause I learned like back then, you could get leads for like well under, I remember we wanted my ads to perform at like under 20 cents per lead, which is unheard of in 2025. But
It's
all of my
crazy.
leads would come in at well under 20 cents. Like I had some that were like under 10 cents. This was like the way, way beginning. But now people are like, oh my gosh, it's 15 a lead. That's so good. I was like, 15 bucks. I was at like 13 cents. I don't understand. But that was back then. So this was a long, long time ago, which is why I don't do Facebook ads now because it hurts my heart.
Yeah, this is probably when Bitcoin was like a dollar or like 50 cents too during
Yes.
this era.
Also makes me feel old. Like, but yes.
Oh, okay. That was your first one. Last business investment.
So, something in my business that I've always kind of struggled with, like I've always had clients come to me in the coaching aspect. They always come, but to have them come in mass, to be able to have one of those like six-figure launches that people talk about for a group program, I hired someone to help me master that for a group program that I'm launching in January. So I hired a coach in June to kind of help me master this B2C part to do more mass scale, not like the onesie twosies.
Best investment.
I've made a lot of business investments. I remember years ago I tallied it and it was well over six figures. At this point, it's like multi six figures how much I've invested in my business over time. Best investment. You know what? I will go back. The best investment I ever made, I believe, was probably spring 2021. And it was with the B2B coach. I had a proposal that was out to a corporation, one of my biggest proposals at that time. And I was just having trouble getting it over the line. And this coach really trained me on the process of how to do a discovery call, do a proposal, present the proposal and fine tune it and get it across the line. Within 30 days of working with them, I closed a $90,000 deal. And that is what I do now. That process has just evolved and gotten better for years. Like, and I feel like that to date is still, yeah, one of the best because it's changed how I do business.
Yeah. It's like one of those pivotal moments that kind of opens your eyes and you're just like, well, if this is possible, what else is possible? So, yeah.
Yeah. And it was all of the things it was doing everything I was afraid of. Like, so for me, I used to love to, like, I do a discovery call, then I would just send you the proposal and be like, yeah, you just let me know if you want it. Like,
Oh,
it's fine. Cause I didn't want to hear anything else after that. And I was like, you can't do that. So everything I had to do was much more, I don't even want to say being aggressive, but being assertive with my clients,
so
presenting to them, talking to them live, getting the feedback, refining, getting them on more calls. And I hated that at the beginning because I didn't want anyone to say no to my face. Like I didn't like that because I felt like you're rejecting me. And I didn't want to overcome all the objections. But now I'm so much better at it.
I think that's the hard part when you're doing initial sales is like separating the thing that you're giving versus your identity and stuff. That's the hardest part. Okay.
Because you're calling my baby ugly. You mean you don't want it? Like,
Those are fighting words, man.
yes.
Okay. The last one, worst business investment that you wish you got your money back.
Like, I'm not going to name a name the same way I didn't name the good ones, even though if you message me and you want to know who the coaches are, I will gladly tell you. I think that worst investment, I honestly want to blame myself for this one though. I don't want to blame like the coach or the institution because I do think there's a lot of coaches out here who offer things and they charge high prices and they don't necessarily deliver all the things on the back end that they said they were going to. So that does happen. But I also think most of my bad investments, when I think about it at the time, it was because I wasn't clear on what I really needed and understand the difference between someone is going to teach me a skill that I then have to learn how to master to get the result versus someone who's doing it with me and is accountable to me while I'm doing it so I get the result with them versus someone who's doing it for me And I just get to sit back and watch and give feedback. And I just need to make sure the container and the time is enough for that coach to get results. So I think a lot of my investments was because there was confusion on which one of those I was signing up for and being okay with the result that happens when you're in the wrong container.
That's very insightful. Which leads me to this question too. We're done with the game, but like, I'm kind of curious, like, how has your decision-making process for investments changed over the years? How do you decide what to invest in and what not to invest in?
I get clear on those three parts first. And I did that off the top of my head. So let me see if I get them right. It was the like me learning a skill. It was the like you learning it with me to get the result and then you doing it for me. So yes, okay. So I still got it. I'm like, sometimes the brain's a little foggy as I'm getting older. I think I really have to get really crystal clear and understand what I want. So for example, that program that's teaching me how to do like the 6-figure B2C launch, there is so much accountability built into that program. It's that middle one. So I'm learning, but there's also coaching involved. There are reviews involved. There's not any activity that I'm doing by myself. As long as I submit my work, there's nothing I'm doing by myself. So if I follow their process, do the coaching, submit all the things, build up the time to do it. So I'm not like, oh, I didn't get a chance to let them review that. Let me just put it up and see what happens. As long as I'm not doing that, I should get the result. And if I don't get the result, there's still accountability on, okay, where do we need to tweak? What do we need to learn to get the results? It's me being really clear because sometimes I want that. Like, I want to learn this so that I'm able to do it again on my own. But there are times where I want the other side, do it for me. I don't even want to talk to you. Like, let me do like a 2-hour intake to give you all the information. Then I need you to go forth into the light and give me back perfection. And I think now I'm just really, really clear on what that looks like. I think I'm also really clear on being able to decipher the results of coaches. What type of testimonials do they have? Who are the testimonials from? Do I see people who I like, know, and trust on their sales page? Have I met them in person? Has someone I know met them in person? I think that I don't have like, what do they call it? The shiny object syndrome. That's easy for things to look so sexy. And now with how ads and everything works, if you click on one daggone link, you ain't never gonna not see that person again. They're gonna be on everything. Everything. And it makes you feel like you want them. And it's not because they're good. It's not because you need it. It's just because the algorithm for Meta is so daggone good that
Yeah.
ad's gonna follow you. And it's just in your brain, like, oh my God, do I need this coach? Do I need this coach? Do I need this coach? And now being in business for a good amount of time, I also have a lot of friends. So I will ask. That's why I say people, if you know me, like I would say like, please reach out to me. I will tell you like what my experience was, what was good, what was bad, what was indifferent. I don't like to necessarily like bash a coach and say like, oh my God, they're terrible. Never invest with them again. Because I also think that a lot of times coaches need bad experiences so that you can improve. So
Yeah,
you
the
just met them
iteration.
during the wrong time. Someone's business when they just started, I get why it wasn't that good. They were probably not the same coach 2, 3, 5, 10 years later. So people do deserve second chances if they've done the work.
Love that. Now, last question, final advice from you. Have you ever seen like Infinity Wars or like the Marvel movies or anything like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you know Thanos, he like just like
Yes.
snaps his fingers and half the population disappears. Well, let's say Thanos snaps his fingers and it just happens to be all your clients. You got all your clients, all your relational capital, all your followers, right? And so if you had to rebuild the business, what would your first 90 days look
Oh my God, that is such a good daggone question. Also, immediately made my stomach hurt, just so you know, like immediately pain in my stomach. But if I had to rebuild it in 90 days, honestly, I'd hit the streets. I'd be back in professional associations. I have a chapter in my book about professional associations and how I used it to level up in my career. And I believe that they are some of the most underrated things you could do to expedite your career. Whether you're looking in a 9 to 5 world or whether you're an entrepreneur, I would probably join 2 to 3 professional associations in my niche. I'd be at every meeting. I would run for office if I could. I would volunteer. I would build my relationships again using professional organizations. And I know one of my superpowers is speaking and engaging. I would try and meet people first because obviously, like professional associations, generally there's a core group that has been there for a long time, and you have to infiltrate that core group by showing up. But once I did that, I would want to start to present and start to expedite some of those relationships. That would be my strategy for the first 90 days. And then if I still had all my knowledge, Thanos didn't take that. Hopefully I'd be up and running much faster because my ability to pitch, my ability to close, my proposal process, all of that would still be there. So I should be able to get up and running much faster.
Well, Kimberly, how do people find you and connect with you?
For the company, everything Brown Leadership, brownleadership.com. For me as an individual, I'm Kimberly B as in Brown online. So Kimberly B online on all social media platforms. And the website is kimberlybeonline.com.
What's your book?
My book is Next Move, Best Move, Transitioning into a Career You'll Love. Fun fact, it was a workshop that I did in like 2017. And when I came up with the book title in like 2020, I was like, oh my God, this is brand new. It's so exciting. It was not. It's something I did earlier. Just my brain forgot about it. But my shtick is always that everyone needs to build a career that they love. You spend 40 plus hours a week at work. If your job sucks and you're unhappy, your life sucks. Because you can't make up 40 plus hours a week and expect to be happy. So I'm a big believer, no matter what you're doing, find a way to align with something that you love. So the book is about building a 2-year career strategy to make your next move.
Love that. Well, Kimberly, honestly, you've given so much insights, wisdom, perspectives. I love the way that you approach like pricing, your mistakes in the past, your investments. And so I think this is actually one of the most like the balance between really entertaining and like also like really insightful podcasts that we've had so far. So thank you so much for coming on it. Yeah. Like
Thanks for
we'd
having
love
me.
to probably have you back again if like maybe in a year or so or something like that. So yeah,
Of course.
thank you so much.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.